Hello everyone and welcome back to another movie review. Today I'm going to be reviewing Spirited Away, which is my first anime movie I'm reviewing on this channel. My first Studio Ghibli movie, which I want to eventually review all of them. Before this I'd only seen My Neighbor Totoro and Ponyo as I was a kid when one came out, so it's been a while. And I really enjoyed this. And so let's get into a little story summary. So Spirited Away follows the story of a 10-year-old girl named Chihiro, and her parents are moving towns. They're moving to a smaller town. She's had to leave her friends and obviously her school and that sort of thing behind. So as they're driving into this town, they get lost and they end up in a forest. They end up in front of this tunnel to a bell tower, I think it is, and that's not very clear what it is. And when they pop out the other side of that, they find an abandoned amusement park. They're exploring it, they're having fun, and they discover that it's actually a world for spirits at nighttime. And her parents end up eating spirit world food, a lot of spirit world food, and then being transformed into pigs, which that's a pretty famous scene. You can see them munching on a bunch of stuff and then transforming into giant pigs. And Chihiro herself ends up in the main attraction of the amusement park, which is the bathhouse, ran by a spirit woman named Yubaba, or I think she's a witch. And so she's a human, and they don't like humans there. And she has to figure out what's going on there, get a job, meet some crazy interesting characters, dodge around, sneak, things like that. And she's just a 10-year-old girl, so it's a pretty crazy experience for her. And it's a pretty crazy experience for the audience as well, because everything in this movie is just completely wacky. So I'm going to start off with the bad, and then we'll end with the good, because there's a lot less bad than there's good, just letting you know. So this movie is on the IMDb top 250 or whatever that is, one of the top movies of all time. I think it's number 31, which it deserves, but not quite as high in my opinion, because there are a few things that held it back from being completely perfect. First off, there are some weird editing jumps, and I pretty much know that this is because they had to cut the running time down. When Miyazaki was making this movie, the final running time was over 3 hours, I think, and it's still a long movie. It's 2 hours 15 minutes or somewhere around there. Especially for an animated movie, it's pretty long. But he had to cut out almost an hour. Hold on. Oh, jeez. He had to cut out almost an hour of story. So it ends up with a few weird editing jumps where it'll cut straight from a scene with music or people talking to something a little less calm, or a little more calm, but it doesn't really feel right. It just goes inside to outside. It's kind of awkward, but those are pretty far between, so it's not a huge deal. It just breaks the immersion a little bit, in my opinion. I also really think that they could have talked a little more about the history between some of the characters. Like, you meet No Face, who is the masked black pillar, sort of, that you've probably seen if you know anything about this movie, and Master Haku, who is the guy who helps Chihiro in the bathhouse. I feel like they could have gone more into their history around there. We don't know anything about No Face. He just happens to be this weird spirit guy, and Haku got a little bit of character development or explanation for his history near the end, but it really wasn't satisfying, especially because you hear, oh, he's a servant for Yubaba. She took his name to control over him and things like that. But I would have wanted to know how that happened, what things does he do for her, things like that, because in my opinion, Haku is one of the least interesting parts of the movie. I don't really like his character design, but that's a very personal gripe. But he's kind of just this bland, princely guy, and he happens to be a dragon as well, which is cool, and that is a better part of his character, but he is one of the weaker parts of the story. And then finally, the ending was pretty disappointing to me. The last fourth or fifth of this movie, like last around 15 to 20 minutes, is just really rushed. It's from the scene where Chihiro and her friends end up at Zeniba's house. After that, which is really considered the end because all the storylines are wrapping up, it's just everything's going by fast. Things don't really make a lot of sense. The very end where Chihiro gets back with her parents and stuff like that, that's fine. But as she's leaving the spirit world and tying up all the loose ends for storylines and character development, things like that. It just, everything's happening really fast, and it does not match the pace of the rest of the movie. Especially because one of my favorite things about this movie, getting to the good, is the fact that each scene is its own contained arc. It has its own contained character, introduction, climax, like an event, and then a resolution, and it really makes the whole thing feel like a series of anime episodes. And that's amazing in my opinion, because it really is something different. And it makes it feel much longer and bigger than it is, because you get so many smaller stories leading up to a bigger climax. And as I'm saying, this slower pace combined with many arcs does not fit well with the end, because they try to wrap up everything in a very short amount of time. It's not a bad ending, it's just awkward compared to the rest of the movie, which was so well paced in my opinion. Alright, some of the other amazing things about this movie, and most of them are pretty obvious, but it is worth mentioning because they're some of the best I've ever seen, including the art, the character design, and the animation. First off with the character design, I love character design. One of my favorite things about Star Wars movies, especially the Mos Eisley Cantina in A New Hope, or Jakku in A Force Awakens, you get to see all these crazy, wacky things in the background. Or even in Men in Black, where there's just things dicking around in the background, weird aliens, things like that. It really makes this setting feel more natural, and like it could happen if the world was as wacky as this. And I love background characters being detailed or having unique designs, things like that. And this movie does that in crazy amounts. There are characters, little alien things, well, they're spirits, but in the background that you'll see for 2 seconds, just a few frames, and their designs are just amazingly creative and unique and super colorful, and it makes everything feel busy and lived in, and like it's a whole economy, because all the characters are interacting, they have their own jobs, their own things to do in the background, and it's just really fun. And obviously also the art, some of the it's all hand painted, like hand drawn. As far as I know, I could be wrong, but it gives that look either way. It's amazing. Some of the outside scenes where there's the ocean, and then you get trees off in the background and windmills and whatever it is. I don't even remember, but either way, it's just amazing, because you can see all the details, and all the brushstrokes are so small and everything's so detailed. It's amazing, especially the towns. Like at night, they have lights and spirits walking around, and buildings lighting up, and busy streets. It's amazing to watch. And I know I'm saying amazing a lot, but it's really the one word that kept coming to my head. I was blown away all the time, and I was watching it online on my phone, so it was a small screen. But it's definitely a movie I would want to see if it's on a limited run in a theater at some point, just because the scale of all these characters interacting and all the beautiful worlds that they created on the big screen would be really, really nice to see. And to end this segment of just how awesome I think this is, the animation is it's incredible, because they don't skip back on any frames. It's not any slower. Like sometimes animes will just be a person talking with the background, and then them standing there, just their mouth moving or their hands moving, and they don't go for that, because there's people running, there's characters like flapping their wings or their gills or whatever in the background, and it's all just really fluid and really impressive, and it definitely stands out, especially because I haven't seen as many Studio Ghibli movies, which are obviously the cream of the crop when it comes to anime films. It would just blew me away, and it might be something that I get less impressed by over time as I watch the rest of them, but either way, I think it's immensely impressive, and I definitely recommend seeing this movie. So that is about it when it comes to my review of Spirited Away. I really hope you enjoyed. This movie gets a 4.5 out of 5 or a 9 out of 10. It is so close to being a perfect movie. It's one of my favorite anime movies of all time, but it just misses the mark on the end, which feels a little rushed, and they kind of had a few editing jumps. I honestly would have loved it if this movie was 3 hours and they were able to do a little bit more, because there's so much possibility with this world, and we're probably never going to see any of it again, because it's its own contained story. So thank you for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in another review. Bye.